Speaker John Boehner isn't too confident things are looking good, saying that Republicans aren't the ones blocking a potential deal to avoid that disaster at the end of the year. But if you're looking at the headlines, you'd almost assume he's lying, because it looks like Republicans are the ones getting in the way of a compromise. So insistent on revenues, that it makes nothing of the point that Democrats are equally insistent on not touching spending. Start reading the fine print. Things like $1.6 trillion in tax hikes, $50 billion in more stimulus. Public Notice's Gretchen Hamel says the media is focusing on Republicans rejecting a deal and maybe not Democrats offering a lousy deal. It is true. It's remarkable just in terms of the coverage, how unbalanced it is.
Well, you know, it's right now where the media is focusing on an inside D.C. ball game, where this debate is really taking place. Over the course of the past year, it's been about a campaign that's happened over across, 50 states. But right now, this is about a negotiation that's happening inside here in the Beltway. And the press wants a soap opera, and they are more focused over the pettiness than the policy. And that's why we're seeing a lot of this press about Republicans not willing to play ball on taxes and how there's some internal problems within the party, instead of the real policy problem we have here, and that this isn't a balanced approach, that there is actually no spending cuts on the table.
So let's say it goes kablooey, Gretchen. Hard to say. But if it does, the media certainly is going to blame Republicans. Will that stick with voters, average folks who look at this?
Well, most polls right now show that, yeah, it will stick with Republicans. There have been some polls out there already saying that if they do not get a deal, who's to blame here, and that it will be Republicans. So Republicans have to make sure that they're playing a good PR game here and communicating to the American public what the problem here is in Washington. And the problem isn't that the majority of Americans get taxed too little. The problem is that Congress spends too much. We've had 3 years without a budget, or 3 years without a budget, and 4 years with $1 trillion deficit. So we're talking about a problem that needs to be solved with some massive spending cuts on the table.
Now, I don't know what really is happening behind the scenes. I do know these overtures or these hints that you get from the likes of Jay Carney at the White House that the president is indeed open and willing to consider spending cuts. He just hasn't spelled them out. I don't know what the truth is here, because I don't believe he has spelled them out. The other is on this middle ground on the tax thing, that you don't have to necessarily, that is just coming in the White House behind the scenes, return to the Clinton era top rate at 39.6%, maybe split the difference at 37-38%. So giving the appearance that there is a middle ground being found here, do you believe it?
Well, if you look at the middle ground and what's reported in the press as the negotiations, they're giving specifics on taxes. They're not giving specifics on spending. And they're saying those spending cuts are going to happen 10 to 20 years from now. That's saying that Congress at that time, 10 years from now, is going to agree with those spending cuts. Listen, we're in this situation because Congress couldn't even agree on spending cuts a year away from now, when the sequester was going into effect, when they failed, the super committee failed in November. They can't even agree on immediate spending cuts. How do you think they can agree and kick the can down to another Congress? That's not fair. It's not fair to the American people, and it's not fair to our economy.
There's the immediate threat of just cobbling together something just to, ease a crisis, or what we're told will be a crisis, and then the longer term kind of big issues that they would address in a new Congress. How likely is either?
Well, in Washington lately, not very likely. But, I think a short-term deal will probably be something that just seems to, what we've been seeing as of recent, seems to work, is these little Band-Aid solutions with the hope of following up with longer-term reform. The problem is the follow-up normally isn't there, and that's really what we need. Otherwise, we're going to be facing this crisis year after year after year.
Yeah, seems like just last year we were dealing with this.
It's Groundhog Day.
Exactly. All right, Gretchen, thank you. In the meantime, California dreaming more like California.